Hey you, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Hey everyone.
Today, we're tumbling down the rabbit hole of cause and effect in Game of Thrones. You know how one tiny thing can lead to just this massive chain reaction?
Oh yeah, the butterfly effect, basically.
Exactly. That's what we're digging into. Inspired by a seriously fun and insightful YouTube breakdown. It's from the Super Analysis channel.
Right, the one called El Efecto Mariposa in Game of Thrones. Como pequeñas causas crean grandes desastres.
That's the one.
Huh.
Or, for those of us whose Spanish is a bit rusty, the butterfly effect in Game of Thrones. How small causes created big disasters.
And it's amazing how this video, playfully highlights just how interconnected everything was in Westeros. They make a really good point that practically nothing happened without a reason.
Except maybe the ending, according to them.
Yeah, they do kind of throw that in there with a bit of a wink.
Right. So our mission today basically is to zoom in on some of the juiciest early examples. You know how the smallest little ripples ended up causing absolute tsunamis of plot?
Those moments where you think, oh, that's not a big deal. And then, boom.
Exactly. Kingdoms crumbling. We're even going to trace how one poor guy's panicked flight from something really scary set off a chain.
A huge chain.
Yeah. It includes, wait for it, a beheading, a ridiculously important job offer, and eventually, well, war.
All-out war.
Right.
And our guide is this super detailed YouTube transcript. It's pretty sharp, sometimes kind of hilariously opinionated view on the plot mechanics.
We'll try to stay neutral in the opinions, though. Okay, so where does this wild ride actually begin?
Well, the video kicks things off by introducing a character they've affectionately nicknamed Panchito.
Ah, Panchito. Okay, so picture this poor bloke, right? He is out with some fellow Night's Watch guys, just doing their rounds.
And they have the seriously bad luck of stumbling upon the White Walkers.
Right, like worst patrol ever. Everyone else ends up, well, let's just say they don't make it back, except Panchito.
And Panchito, totally understandably, just runs, gets the heck out of there.
I mean, it wouldn't, but...
And it's this moment, that pure terror and fleeing, that sets the first domino tumbling. Panchito's desertion has a swift and brutal consequence.
He gets executed by Ned Stark.
Yep. For desertion.
Talk about a cold open for the whole series. The video makes a great point that this, grim little scene immediately sets up two pretty hardcore rules for Westeros.
What were they again?
First, you're way better off dying in battle than running away scared. And second...
Oh, the beheadings. They really like those.
They really, really did. I mean, poor Panchito even had to watch one of his mates lose his head right before it was his turn. Gruesome stuff.
So Panchito panics, Panchito pays the price. It really makes you think how even that seemingly small, early death kind of lays the groundwork.
For what comes later. Yeah. Duty, fear.
And the harsh realities. Like this world punishes fear, maybe even more than death itself sometimes, which kind of flips the usual fantasy script, you know? Valor isn't always rewarded.
And that whole Night's Watch oath about desertion, that echoes later with Jon Snow, doesn't it? The tough choices he faces.
Definitely foreshadowing the conflicts there.
Okay, so next up, we've got a character who the video kind of jokes was basically an extra in the show itself.
Someone nobody really thought about much at the time.
Right. But turns out to be absolutely pivotal, Jon Arryn.
Yeah, his death, it seems almost off-screen, but it's the crucial catalyst, isn't it? It's why King Robert Baratheon heads north to Winterfell.
Exactly. Arryn's death wasn't just, a personal tragedy. It took away a stabilizing force, created this power vacuum.
Which leads directly to Robert's trip.
Precisely. And Robert isn't just popping up for a friendly visit and a pint. He's there on a mission. Named Ned Stark as the new hand of the king.
And the source material couldn't resist throwing in that comparison.
Oh, the Hugo Chavez thing. Yeah, describing Robert's personality, despicable, apparently, yet funny and persuasive, quite the mix.
It's a provocative parallel they draw, suggesting the kind of compelling charisma can exist alongside, well, less admirable traits.
Makes you think about leadership, right? How complex it can be.
And how even seemingly small shifts at the top, like the hand dying, can just ripple outwards massively.
Absolutely. And Robert, being persuasive, doesn't just want Ned as his right-hand man.
Oh, no.
He wants him as family, too.
Wants him as father-in-law. Proposes the marriage between Sansa Stark and Prince Joffrey.
And the video makes it super clear. Back then, a royal offer like that, it wasn't really optional.
You couldn't just say, nah, we're good, thanks. Especially when, the last guy in that job probably met a nasty end thanks to the royal family.
A little nod to the Lannisters there.
A very unsubtle wink. So Jon Arryn dies mysteriously, Robert goes north, Ned gets the hand job.
which puts him in a terrible spot, really.
And Sansa gets betrothed to. Oh, Joffrey. You can see how quickly it's all snowballing already.
It's that rigid structure, isn't it? Next trap. Choice is almost an illusion for him there.
Okay, right. Now we get to what the source considers one of the absolute gold standard examples of cause and effect in the whole show. And man, it's a big one.
Bran Stark, the climb. Young Bran Stark's little adventure scaling that tower.
Even though his mom specifically told him not to.
Of course. He goes exploring up that old abandoned tower. Seems like innocent kid stuff, right?
So wrong. So wrong.
This seemingly harmless climb leads directly to Bran witnessing. Well, let's just say Jaime and Cersei having a very private, very incestuous moment. Whoops.
And the video just loves this part because the sheer avalanche of chaos it unleashes is just incredible.
It's like this single childish act just shatters everything, exposes the rot at the core of the Lannisters.
And it ripples out instantly. That innocent curiosity inadvertently uncovers this huge, dark secret.
Which then drives so much of the conflict.
You bet. The immediate fallout. Jaime just chucks Bran out the window.
Horrifying. Bran ends up, tragically, an invalid, and then Cersei...
Being Cersei, sends a hired knife to finish the job. Quietly.
Which totally fails, but that attempt leads Catelyn Stark to make a huge mistake.
Capturing Tyrion Lannister. She thinks he's behind it all.
Wrong place, wrong time for Tyrion. And Catelyn's impulsive move, what does that cause?
That immediately provokes Jaime to attack Ned Stark down in King's Landing. It escalates things between the Starks and Lannisters like that.
Snap! The video even throws in that little moraleia, the moral of the story.
Right. Hagamose caso a la mama.
Listen to your mother. Solid life advice, especially in Westeros, apparently.
Seems like it.
So a kid climbs a tower, sees something he shouldn't, gets pushed, becomes a target. An innocent guy is wrongly grabbed. That's a key Stark gets attacked. This is causality on overdrive.
It's amazing how that one personal, isolated event just explodes onto the political scene. Shows how tightly wound and dangerous the connections between the houses were.
And the ripples keep going. Catelyn, bless her, determined but slightly misguided heart.
Puts on her detective hat.
Yeah, and pieces together some pretty flimsy clues. Becomes absolutely convinced Tyrion was the mastermind behind the hit on Bran.
The video mentions his nickname, the Imp, but notes it wasn't actually used that often. Fun little detail.
But the key thing here is Catelyn's misjudgment, just totally.
The source material is really keen to stress that Tyrion was not an assassin of invalids.
Far from it.
In fact, they point out times he actually showed compassion, helped people out, like suggesting the saddle for Bran or giving Jon Snow that amazing "never forget what you are" speech.
Exactly. And to really hammer this home, the video includes Tyrion's own hilarious confessions about childhood mischief.
Oh, yeah. The milk product in the stew.
The turtle stew. Ew. And the teenage mishap.
And the donkey and the honey jar at the brothel. Legendary stuff.
Quite the history. But the point is, these funny little admissions just show how ridiculous the accusation against him really was. He wasn't that guy.
And Catelyn's wrongful arrest, fueled by grief and understandable rage, but based on bad info, that's the spark.
The spark that ignites the whole war between the Starks and Lannisters.
A mother's love, tragically twisted, leading to mass conflict. It's heavy stuff.
Now Tyrion, being Tyrion, manages to wiggle out of that mess. The video mentions trial by combat.
Which they'll cover later, apparently.
Right. But his troubles are far from over. Because guess who shows up next? Stirring the pot.
Stannis Baratheon. Cue the ominous music.
It's interesting, Tyrion gets free, but he can't just go back to normal. The whole board has changed while he was gone.
Thanks to everything we've just talked about.
Absolutely. Stannis, always Mr. By the Book, as he saw it anyway, starts firing off letters everywhere.
Ravens flying left and right.
Declaring that Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella are illegitimate. All thanks to Cersei and James.
Yeah.
Close bond.
And we get introduced to Stannis' very intense religious side. And Melisandre.
Melisandre, yeah. That brings this whole new dynamic, doesn't it? Religious fanaticism as a political weapon.
Definitely. And Stannis naturally believes he's the rightful king, wants the Iron Throne.
Which immediately puts him against the Lannisters, the Starks, and his own brother, Renly.
Who also fancied the chair.
Oh.
Sibling rivalry on a whole new level.
And then the video drops this completely bonkers anecdote. Melisandre giving birth
to the shadow baby. The black stain, they call it, Stannis' son, after an express pregnancy.
Just wild. To assassinate Renly.
Talk about an unconventional weapon. That, the source says, directly sets up the War of the Five Kings.
though they do admit maybe not the best writing on that specific plot point. A shadow baby assassin, really.
It definitely pushes the fantasy element, doesn't it? And raises questions about how far people will go for power.
So Stannis deals with Renly, shadow style, and sets his sights on King's Landing and Joffrey.
But, as the video points out, he doesn't actually face Joffrey in the Battle of Blackwater.
Nope. He runs up against Tyrion,
who somehow landed the job of Hand of the King, thanks to Tywin.
Talk about being thrown in the deep end. Tyrion is suddenly in charge during this massive crisis.
And he brings Shay with him, right? His paramour?
Yeah, so he's juggling an invading fleet and hiding his girlfriend from Cersei. No pressure.
The video really plays up the contrast there. Tyrion actually being strategic and decisive.
Well, everyone else on the council is just looking out for themselves.
It really highlights Tyrion's intellect,
and
maybe surprisingly, his willingness to defend the city, not just himself.
Yeah, he steps up, gets King's Landing ready, figures out the whole wildfire plan.
That very volatile, very green substance. Boom.
Deals with Stannis' ships. The battle kicks off. Stannis' guys hit the beach. Arrows fly. They clash with the Royal Guard.
Carnage. Absolute carnage.
Ready count through the roof, naturally. And even the Hound is like, nope, I'm out. Decides to flee.
And Stannis gets so close. The source really emphasizes that. He almost took the Iron Throne.
Laying the blame firmly on Cersei for putting an illegitimate king there in the first place. Makes you wonder, what if?
It shows how shaky the Lannister hold on power really was then. They nearly lost it all.
Then you get that image, Joffrey hiding behind Cersei's skirts, total cowardice.
Contrasted with Tyrion giving that amazing speech, rallying the defenders.
Stepping up when the king wouldn't. But just when it looks like Stannis might actually win.
Enter Tywin Lannister, riding in with the Tyrells.
The cavalry arrives, saves the day, cements Lannister power, and forges that new Lannister-Tyrell alliance.
All thanks to Marguerite Tyrell's maneuvering.
Right, because Stannis' shadow baby conveniently made her a widow by killing Renly.
Leaving her perfectly positioned to make a deal. Politics.
The Tyrells, always pragmatic, saw which way the wind was blowing.
And Marguerite, showing her political smarts, gets herself betrothed to Joffrey, pushing Sansa aside.
The video ranks Marguerite as, like, top 3 most astute women in the Shutch at that point.
And poor Sansa.
Thinks it's a good thing. Thinks she's free from Joffrey. Oh, honey, no.
Just highlights her innocence then, doesn't it? No clue about the real game being played.
And finally, Tyrion, after all that, saving the city.
Gets demoted by dear old dad. Thanks, Tywin.
He's left feeling pretty conflicted about leaving King's Landing with Shay because, weirdly, he actually felt like he belonged there, despite how awful they treated him.
So after the Blackwater, new alliances, new engagement, the hero gets shafted, and the Lannisters are barely clinging on. What a chain reaction.
Absolutely. All those events, Panchito running, Jon Arryn dying, Bran climbing, Catelyn grabbing Tyrion, Stannis attacking, the battle, they're all linked.
Intricately, inextricably linked. Each step leads to the next. It's this complex, brutal web of causality.
Yeah.
It's Game of Thrones.
Exactly. And as we've seen, the smallest, most insignificant choices can just blow up, have massive dramatic consequences, reshaping everything.
The show, as the source really drives home, is just a masterclass in that ripple effect. How actions have consequences, intended or not.
Which kind of leads to a final thought for you, listening out there.
Yeah.
Considering all these early dominoes falling, what themes about, I don't know, power, family, consequence, what do you see really emerging early on?
And looking back, are there other small moments later in the series that now seem way more significant? Moments you might view differently now, knowing how things can spiral.
Yeah, anticipating that potential for chaos or huge change. Think about how these early butterfly effects shaped the whole tragic, captivating story we watch.
Definitely something to chew on.
For sure. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Always